So that's the brief history. Nothing really special. We just love what we do. We're all real estate professional and we still deal with the same type of clients. What we do, we're specializing in the commercial real estate market, commercial office space. We talk to all the developers, the likes of SM, Ayala, Robinsons, and boutique developers who are present here in BGC. And we talk to the same multinational companies, the BPO, the call center industry, and now the POGO market. So we know the market well. What we'll be sharing to you today is based on our first-hand experience, what we do every day, the transactions that we've done, the landlords that we deal with every day. So these are stories that we know very well. It's not second-hand information. So thank you again for coming, and will be Vaughn. So we can start? Okay, all right. So my portion, I'll talk about first the office market, what we feel. It's actually one of the best, if not the best, barometers of a growing economy because once office spaces are built and taken, that means jobs are created in the market. And this slide, one of my favorite slides because as you can see, this is the GDP growth rate of the Philippines, and it's showing you all the presidents there and what happened in the GDP growth rate. So for the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades, we've experienced positive growth rate. I did not start in 1998. My real estate career started in 2008. But that was the time when Lehman Brothers happened, the global financial crisis. However, in 2008, a year after that, that was the year wherein we felt, a lot of big players, the BPO industry started to boom in the Philippines. Because when the market is bad in the first world country, they will look at options on how to be more agile, be more productive and efficient. And that's the start of the boom of the call center in the Philippines. So brands such as JP Morgan, Citibank, and all the other big players, Deutsche Bank, big insurance companies started to put up shop here in the Philippines. And in the last 20 years, you've seen positive growth rate. And the highest that we've seen so far, the longest running, is the last 8 years at 6% plus GDP growth rate. And that's very good. I've talked to the ADB country head, and he said anywhere in the world, when you see 5% growth rate in the economy, that means they're doing well. And so far, we've been very lucky because after the BPO market, the next boom, we've seen the POGO, the Chinese market. Very controversial, but it's fueling the real estate, not just the real estate industry, but the whole Philippine economy. And if you look deeper, next slide. Oh, okay. All right. So if you compare us with our neighbors, not with the catch-up countries, of course, like the likes of Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, but if you just look at our Southeast Asian neighbor, we're number 1. Diba? Ang galing eh. So Philippines this year, the ADB said will end at 6%, that's the estimate. But comparing that to Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, we're still doing so well despite all the stories and all that. No one can say that the Philippines is not doing well. The numbers there, it's showing how good we are as a country. The next slide. Okay. So as a real estate professional, I always look at these two performance indicators. So the GDP from construction and the real estate loans coming from commercial, the developers, and individuals, those taking loans for their condo or housing. And look at that, all moving up. 2019, they said, this is the highest in terms of GDP from construction. And we might end with 1 trillion pesos. And this is the highest that we've seen so far. In terms of real estate loans, this is the confidence of the financial sector also and the developers because they're borrowing money to build office spaces, commercial spaces, and individuals also. They're taking loans to either buy condominium or to build houses. And you'll see an increase in demand. So 11 in terms of real estate loans. So 11% from residential and 13% in the commercial loans. Next. Okay. So do we feel that also in the real estate market? As I've shared this too, this is a summary of the office market and the condominium market. And for the last 10 years, 20 years actually, the growth is phenomenal. Every year, 2019, we've seen 1 million square meters of office space that have entered the market, all brand new. And in the next 2-3 years, it's going to be the same. 2020 this year up to 2022, 1 million square meters of office space every year will enter the market. And if you look at the condo market, the residential market, it's the same. The average rental, the average price per square meter, it's growing. And in terms of supply also, it's growing. So it's demand driven. A lot of people are really taking space, building, because landlords are building office spaces because there is a very strong demand. So more into details, the office market outlook. This is a summary, just the key numbers comparing 2018 to 2019. So every year, as I've said, starting this year, you'll see 1 million square meters, 1 million. So if you're familiar with SM North EDSA or Mega Mall, 2 times of that is what's being flushed in the market every year. So dalawang Mega Mall every year for the next 3 years. That's how big the office market is right now. And some people, they're saying, ang daming supply, baka naman nagbumababa yung presyo. Hindi eh. Everywhere you go, whether it's an old CBD or a new CBD or even the fringes, rental rates, it's moving up, prices of land moving up. In fact, one of our problems now is we have nothing to offer because land values, it's been going so high and very limited. Everyone's buying property. The Taipans, the billionaires, those who are not in the real estate market, they want to be part of the real estate industry. Not just the locals, but a lot of foreign players, foreign developers and investors, they are entering the market. They want to be part of this boom because where else can you go? If you want to play in Southeast Asia, Philippines is one of the safest, the best at the moment. In other countries, in the first world countries, they're experiencing a lot of uncertainties. And average rental across Metro Manila to 1,160 pesos right now. We'll show you more slides later per city. So this is the pipeline for the next 3 years. The current Metro Manila, or I would say the whole office market, the total stock, is more or less 10 million square meters. When I started in 2008, the office stock was just at 2 million. So today, fast forward, it's now 10 years after, the total office stock is around 10 million square meters. And in the next 2-3 years, we'll have another 3.2. So by 2022, we'll have 13 million square meters of office space. And bulk of the supply is just in Metro Manila. So kahit may Taal volcano eruption and all, we're not that really affected in the office market because bulk of the businesses, office transactions, they're happening in Metro Manila. And about 10-20% in the provincial area. So like now we have Cebu, Davao, Cavite, Bulacan, Pampanga, Clark, those, or Bacolod, Iloilo, etc. When you add all those office spaces development in those provincial areas, it will just make about 20% of the total office stock. So what's good to note here, pipeline, if you look at the pipeline supply 2019 to 2022, in terms of supply, the highest, you'll see that in Quezon City. So Quezon City is very active right now. 548,000 square meters will be added in the next 2 years. And next, after that would be Taguig, where we are. A lot of new buildings are coming online here. Mega World is very active. Ayala has a lot of new projects here. And in individual boutique developers also. And in Makati, you've seen the developments there. Ayala is renewing and reviving a lot of pocket spaces there. So the triangle, the one next to Makati Med. And when you total that, it would be another 500,000 square meters of office space in the next 3 years. But when you look at the total increase in terms of percentage, Parañaque, not surprising because all the Chinese, the Pogo players are here. So if you look at the supply in 2018, it was just 72,000 square. The pipeline that's coming in from today until 2022 is double that, more than double that. And that's an increase of almost 3 times. And next slide. If you look at the land values and the price per square meter, this year, actually in 2019, we've seen the highest at almost 2,000 pesos per square meter in some portions of Makati along Ayala Avenue. Land values also, it's reaching the roof, and a million square meter, 1 million per square meter for those land along Ayala Avenue. And even here in BGC, a lot of big players, a lot of billionaires, they want to acquire, but it's very costly and very expensive right now. Also at 1 million, more than a million per square meter. We've heard that a client of ours made an offer for a property here at 1.2 million square meters and it was declined. They want higher than that. So imagine that. In the Bay Area, Alabang, as far as Cavite, it's booming right now, again, because of the Chinese market. So anywhere you go, you'll see an upward trend. Land values moving up, rental rates per square meter moving up, and it's a steady pace. It's not just an upward spike in rental. Except, of course, for the Bay Area, the MOA area, where all the Chinese players are currently situating. So this is still the demand. 2019, similar to 2018, what we've seen, the biggest driver of the office demand, it's coming from now, the POGO market, the Chinese player, and second, from the BPO industry. When you total all these, last year we've seen 1.1 million of square meters office spaces that were taken. So all with contracts, most of them signed up for a 5-year lease, and they paid more than 6 months now yung deposits. Unlike before, the market trend is just 3 months security deposit, 3 months advance rent. Today, you'll be surprised, some landlord, they're asking for 2 years advance rent. And may kumakagat, yun yung mahirap, di ba? There are players, companies who are willing to pay. We have a client who signed in Quezon City, took the whole building, 20,000 square meter, and they paid almost 1 year advance. So the landlord very happy kasi that's enough money to make another building. So ganun ka wild yung transaction lately. This is what we know about the POGO market, 60 licenses na daw. And they're making several sub-license, no? Kim Wong is the biggest, and that's why you have Island Cove, the whole Island Cove. I worked there, one of my first jobs. That whole area is now being converted to an island, diba? Pogo, all Pogo. So they'll have hotel, office, recreation area.
That's 36 hectares.
Yes, everything there na. So 4 buildings will be up and the rest are coming online in the next few years. So yung buong Cavite, no, lalo na yung, what's this, Aguinaldo Highway, that area right now, I think 5 years ago, couldn't even get tenants. Office tenant, or right now POGO tenant, and the rental rate back then 500 pesos per square meter, already very high. Today they were able to get 1,500 pesos per square, mas mahal pa sa Legazpi and Salcedo Village. So, and they like the south, they like the south part of town because it's near the airport, easy yung exit and entry points nila. And so, interesting slide because when you look at POGO and BPO market, the BPO market started very kind of slow, 2008 nung nag-boom, and then it hit today. But when you look at the POGO market in the last 4 years, they were able to reach 1.14 square meters, million. And that's already 12% of the total stock today. The POGO market took 15 years to get to that level probably. So imagine how fast these Chinese POGO operators. There are other operators, not just Chinese, but the main bulk are mostly Chinese POGO operators. Same story, we're still the #1 in voice and second when it comes to non-voice. So the BPO market, we're still the #1. And out of the 100 super cities, 3 are in the Philippines. So we have Manila still number 2, Cebu, Davao, and top 5 according to Tholons when you look at the whole global market. This came from our IB friends, and they're still projecting growth, not as fast compared to 5 years ago, wherein the growth was 20% year on year. Today, it's at 5, 6%, 7% year on year. But it's still a lot. It's still a 25 billion US dollar industry, second to our OFW remittances. And we think it will stay, that BPO market, that call center industry will stay, and it will still fuel the whole real estate market because of our demographics. And no one can deny this. Where else can you go? We have a big population. Almost everybody can speak English. Average age of 25 years old. The macroeconomic background is still very good. And aside from that, we have the POGO, which is very good news for us. And aside from the POGO market, the BPO, the call center, we also have this, it's growing, it's not a trend, the co-working industry. It's moving, it's growing so fast because there are a lot of companies now who are not open to doing a lot of capital expense. They like this because it's an operational expense model. And some big companies or even new companies, when they enter the Philippines, it's best to test the water. And normally these co-working, we call that before plug and play shared office. They're present all over Metro Manila and in strategic, very good locations. So they're able to employ people and they can easily expand or shrink. The contract there is very flexible. Price-wise, it's more expensive than having your regular office, but you're paying for the flexibility and the risk. And this type of model, it's growing. Yung mga co-working na yan. Now you hear co-living, pero dormitories mostly. And so many sharing to cut down on cost. So you know that it's a hit when the big players are also playing and doing that business. So right now, we have the local players, the likes of Ayala. They also have their serviced office, Robinsons, and several other developers. It's easy for them to have this shared service co-working facility because they already have existing buildings and it's easy to just do the business model. So aside from the international players like WeWork, that they had a lot of problems lately, we have Common Ground, also an international player. So hindi na nag-iisa si Regius. Regius before was the biggest, the pioneer, but today there's so many competition. And the local players are doing it themselves. They don't need an international player to handle the co-working shared service facilities for them. And then going into per city, I'll just quickly discuss about this. Makati, what's interesting here, it's still the highest in terms of rental. The last 10 years, as you can see, the average rate growing, moving up, 1,600 is the average last year. Land value also from 2015 to today, it has moved 5 times. Next one. These are some developments that you'll see in Makati. Estate Makati is the most talked about JV of Federal Land and SM. They're selling so fast, I've heard it's moving so fast. And then Ayala, they are redeveloping a lot of their properties, and these are some of their projects that will come online this year. Ayala Triangle and One Ayala Tower. This one, those two buildings or those two locations, they're targeting multinational companies, not the POGO market. And in Taguig, where we are, very near Makati, that's why the growth is almost the same. Land values also is almost the same with Ayala Avenue properties. And we're seeing 1,500 pesos per square meter in terms of rate. Very good story here. Still one of the favorite, if not the favorite of a lot of multinational companies. And bawal ang POGO dito sa BGC, no? Taguig, medyo very strict si Mayor. Which is why we don't see a lot of them moving around, unlike in the Bay, di ba, in Cavite, Alabang area. So this is BGC before and this is it now. Di mo na makilala. Next one. So Pasig, no POGO here. And if you look at if you notice, no, the rental rates did not move that much because Ortigas, a lot of our friends, they find it very compact and traffic inside, so it's hard to get in and get out. It's still near BGC, so it's always an option for those companies who have already presence in Makati, BGC. So next would be to go to the Pasig area, Ortigas area. Land value still affordable compared to Makati and BGC. These are some of the projects in Pasig area. And Mandaluyong, very quiet before, but not anymore. They're welcoming the Chinese market, the Pogo market. So a lot of Pogo players are already here, and the mayor, they're supporting them. So before, mga old buildings there are now taken, rented either for office or for residential requirement of their people. So good investment for, I mean, it's good for those who have properties in Mandaluyong. Right now, it's booming in that area. And SM, they're very active there. These are just some of the iconic projects that we can see now in Mandaluyong area. Si Podium, the new Podium Tower, and the shopping mall there. SM Mega Mall is redeveloping also, and they have this new tower. So it's getting better, world class na. Before, when you say Mandaluyong, ayaw na pumunta ng iba. But today it's different. And Quezon City, before it's far, no? The Pogo market, they don't want to go to Quezon City, but because the land prices and rental rates have gone so high now in Makati, the Bay Area, the Sin City, Alabang also. Now they're moving north. Quezon City is an option. The mayor there also is very welcoming to this Pogo market. And as I've shared earlier, bulk of the supply in the next 2 years will be coming from Quezon City. Here are some projects that you'll see in Quezon City right now as far as Fairview, Ayala, Vertis North, and that one of another BPO office. So a lot of supply coming in Quezon City area. Alabang, this is where I live. Before it was quiet, not anymore. The Chinese market, they're there. The offices are being taken left and right. Philinvest, they're very active in developing their property there. And Ayala also, and several other developers. So Philinvest, this is their development. The Bay City, the Sin City, the favorite of everyone, and MOA SM, they've already announced this. They're reclaiming another 300 hectares, and that can go to 600 hectares now. So imagine that, double the size of BGC in the next few years. So that's Manila Bay, West Side. So this is the project of Mega World and SM. That's for my part. So what I'd like